Hi everyone, great to have your company this week on Checkered Flag right here on C7 Sport. A big welcome to the show and a particularly warm welcome to Sydney's Eastern Creek International Karting Raceway for round 3 of the 2000 APS Kart Racing Series. In the next 60 minutes you'll see some terrific motorsport with several of the nation's bright stars on the motorsport horizon taking part in this prestigious championship. You'll see the final of Intercontinental A, the final of Junior Intercontinental A, and the final of Formula A. First up though, it's the Kart Oz magazine sponsored Junior Intercontinental A. And before we go racing in the big event, the final, let's check the finishing positions in the pre-final, which determine the starting grid for the final. Nick Simmons capped off what's been a terrific weekend, taking victory in the Junior Intercontinental A pre-final. In his top card entry, Jeffrey Grant was second, followed by Andrew Thompson and Glenn Powles, Toby Kipper, Shane Price, Colin Corkery, Ryan Monaghan, Tim Slade and Mitchell Cunningham rounding out the top 12. Terrific to have your company this week. Stand by, a terrific race coming your way. I'm joined in commentary by former champion karter Alan Gurr, who these days is taking part in the National Super Touring Championship driving a Ford Mondeo. We'll bring Alan into the commentary shortly. Perfect weather here at the Eastern Creek International Karting Raceway. Simmons, the driver of kart number 9, who's had a tremendous weekend, leads this field away as they go through the fast left-hander to start proceedings here. Welcome along to Alan Gurr. Good to see you again. And this is a fabulous class of motorsport, very competitive.
Oh, very competitive indeed. It's the breeding ground for all future motor racing campaigners, and we have here is Nick Simmons taking the lead over Andrew Thompson.
Simmons, the New South Welshman, I already alluded to, and we showed you the finishing results in the pre-final, was simply outstanding and keeps that form going in the race that matters most. Andrew Thompson, the Queenslander, driver of kart number 62, is currently in second. That is a Tony kart. Simmons driving the top kart. Many different chassis manufacturers represented here this weekend. Practice going through that left-hander a moment ago, a little bit bumpy, as is that part of the circuit.
Yeah, well, over the years, as the karts go over it, the track starts to deteriorate, and they've had a bit of patching up done, but still it's a little bumpy and a lot of G-forces created through the turn.
Here's Jeffrey Grant in the kart number 19, also starting to come into the equation. He runs third, tacking onto the back of the men up front. Slow motion replay, some real G-force pressure on the body here. Look at that.
Yeah, there's a lot of G-forces put there, and it was a terrific move by Andrew Thompson. Took advantage of Nick Simmons' mistake, and he's got a gap and he's trying to pull away.
Once again, the pre-final providing us with a very accurate guide of form going into this main final. The likes of Simmons, Thompson and Kipper, who's prominent at the moment, running third in this event on the racetrack. They all performed well, finishing in the top 4 in the pre-final, and they've kept the momentum going here.
Yeah, we have Andrew Thompson on the Vega tyre. He ran out of Ipswich and it was very fast. As you can see the results, he won by a fair margin. But this round we've got Nick Simmons on the Vega tyre as well, and he seems to be mixing it with him.
Indeed, and for that matter, Toby Kipper in third also on a Vega tyre. So it seems to be the rubber most conducive to high performance at Sydney's Eastern Creek International Karting Raceway. I don't pretend to be a good karting driver by any stretch of the imagination, but I had a drive around this track when it first opened in the corporate karts, and I can't tell you how much fun it was.
Oh yeah, everyone that drives a go-kart says how much fun it is and how much of a buzz. And in this form of racing, it's a lot faster and a really good close racing. And I'm sure every driver out there is having fun with the front, middle or the rear of the field.
I also tell you I regretted it for a month. My arms and upper body were that sore.
It's very physical indeed. You've got to do a fair bit of training. I'm sure these young boys are out there and on the weights because they're not real big physically, and there's some long race ahead of them.
Great battle here. Andrew Thompson, leader, kart number 62, then a gap back to Simmons, and it's only a very minute gap. Toby Kipper still back in third, and the leading trio have really stolen a big gap on the other combatants in this field. You can see that Thompson is certainly aware of the fact that Simmons is there. He's spending as much time looking over his shoulder as he is looking straight ahead.
Yeah, well, he should probably focus on what's ahead of him, not who's behind him, and really get on with the job.
Yeah, he's got to be slowing himself down.
Oh, for sure, he'd have to be. You see, Jeffrey Grant has dropped off this front 3. Surprising, I thought he would have been up the front mixing it with him, but I don't know what is going on there. He might have a setup that will come on later in the race, but he's got a lot of experience, and I'm sure that he'll have something there to show.
Ideal weather conditions prevailing in Sydney for this third round of the APS Kart Racing Series. An undoubted success story on the national karting scene. Here's Simmons up on the inside, and Thompson looking to respond. He didn't have the right line, though. We'll take another look at that. Thrilling stuff.
You can see Thompson looked over his right shoulder, and Nick Simmons saw that, and he had him lined up coming out of that chicane, and a terrific move, and pulled it up.
Well, I think we've got to go back to what we were talking about a moment ago. Had he have not been looking over his shoulder and just getting on with it, I don't want to sound too harsh, only a young kid that's obviously racing karts in an effort to learn, and good on him for doing so. But I think he learned something there, don't you reckon?
Yeah, for sure. I think he'll be looking at the back of Nick Simmons and won't look around again. He'll be chasing him as hard as possible.
Now Simmons is doing it too. They're going to get a pretty sore neck with their constant looking around the place. We drift back through the field. You can see Ryan Monahan in 23. At the moment, he's involved with a battle with the South Australian driver, Tim Slade, in kart number 2.
Well, they're both in Top Karts here. This is Top Karts home ground, so they've done a lot of testing, and Nick Simmons has shown that he's got the right combination. And I think Tim Slade is also moving through the field quite fast.
Slade again. Currently, you're looking at Ryan Monahan from New South Wales in 23, as Alan has mentioned, a top kart driver. Very sophisticated racetrack, some high-tech electronic timing equipment, part and parcel of this facility. And it certainly is an appropriate host venue for an event of such prestige.
They're running a really good meeting here. I've been out at the circuit a few times, and they've really got their act together, and they're really putting on a good show for everyone.
Colin Corkery, New Zealand driver in kart 66. That's him on the left-hand side of screen. We caught a quick shot of him. Here he comes now, under siege. Shane Price, the Victorian, in the Arrow 39, right behind him. So there's battles all over the circuit. Doesn't matter that they're not running up front. They're still having a good time, and of course competing for maximum series points.
Yeah, Shane Price had a really good first round. I think he was had a mechanical failure in it, but he was running up the front all meeting, and it was just really unfortunate to see have a mechanical failure out of his control.
You're watching the Kart Oz sponsored Junior Intercontinental A final, round 3 of the APS Kart Racing Series. These Junior Intercontinental A karts using 100cc piston port engines, with a clutch allowing the class to have a Formula 1 style standing start. And the engine's developing around 22 horsepower at up to 17,000 revs. So it's no place for the faint-hearted. Enormous power to weight ratio.
Last year they actually used a standing start. This year they're starting at walking pace, because last year they had a few problems with karts stalling, and they deemed it a little dangerous, and this has prevented a fair bit of a problem. And their starts are getting away a lot better and underway a lot faster.
The rule applies in terms of the maximum weight with driver and kart combined, 130 kilograms. This does reflect the power to weight ratio I was talking about, and they can use open compound tyres. As Alan has already said, all the top runners this weekend using Vega rubber, but Bridgestone and Dunlop also strongly represented in the field.
Yeah, each year there's been a really dominant tyre, and this year in juniors it seems to be Vega. Last year it was a bit of a mix, but I think Bridgestone was just that quite a bit more consistent. But we see Nick Simmons has pulled a big gap on Andrew Thompson, who's also pulled a gap on Kipper at the moment.
That's Kipper we're watching as he negotiates some of the twistier parts of the circuit. Technique so important, so vitally crucial to be tidy in kart racing. They get out of shape very easily.
They're very, very twitchy machines to drive. You've got to be smooth. If you're rough at all on them, you'll lose a lot of speed. And you can see there he's really getting some attitude on the kart, and it seems to be working quite well.
I'd just like to explain to our viewers that are perhaps watching elite karting for the first time what the drivers are doing when they put their right hand down beside the engine.
They have what we call an airbox, which has 2 holes coming from the carburetor. That's actually the intake for the engine to get the air. As the engine gets hot, it leans off. So the drivers, instead of richening up the mixtures, they give it a real dosing of fuel, which cools it down by about 20 degrees in one hit. And all they're doing is covering the holes and allowing more fuel to get in.
Corkery being worked over here by Shane Price. Another look at it. A little bit of bumperini happening here at Eastern Creek. That could have been nasty.
It could have been, but it's good close racing, and that's what everyone wants to see.
Shane Price, only a midget. Could barely see over the steering wheel in 39.
Very aggressive, and it's really good to see that they're really getting into it. And just because they're young doesn't mean that they're driving as if they are.
What sort of budget does mum and dad have to find in order to send the kid racing in this class?
In this class, if you don't have a team supporting you, it can get quite expensive. You have usually 2 chassis at about $3,000 each, and probably about 3 to 4 engines, and they're around $2,000 to $3,000 each as well. So you're looking at a fair bit, and you've got tyres to deal with, and that's really much the setup cost, but each round is another few grand with airfares, etc.
Watching this battle unfold between Colin Corkery and the driver of 39, Shane Price. Corkery is a New Zealander. They're a fair way back in the field, but nonetheless having an enthralling battle. This is the second last lap, by the way, now in the Cardos Junior Intercontinental A. Final Round 3 APS Kart Racing Series from Sydney's Eastern Creek International Karting Raceway. A relatively new multi-million-dollar facility built separately but adjacent to, what would you call it? The international car racing circuit right beside it. Now we're on the last lap. And Nick Simmons, there he is, man in front, was involved in a huge battle early on with Andrew Thompson. Thompson came into this round leading the series on 94 points. And Nick Simmons was back in about 5th or 6th spot, so this is exactly what he needed.
For sure, get some points under his belt and move up in the series, but he's got a huge lead, and there's nothing that's going to stop him from winning unless it's mechanical failure.
Indeed, the top kart driver, Nick Simmons, the New South Welshman on home territory. He'd be happy with this. It'll be a popular win with the fans and his sponsors alike. Thompson will finish 2nd, barring mechanical failure. And Tim Slade, you'll find, will finish 3rd, just ahead of Toby Akippa. Let's recap them now. It was Simmons, the top kart entry, then Andrew Thompson, Tim Slade, Toby Akippa, Colin Corkery, the New Zealander, doing a good job. Great battle with Shane Price, who was 6th. Jeffrey Grant, Ryan Monahan, Jace Lindstrom finishing 9th, and the Techno driver Hayden Patrizzi finishing 10th. Let's now hear from our winning driver.
Nick Simmons, 3rd round of the APS Racing Series. This is the first time on the podium and you made the top step. How did you do it?
Oh, well, this is our home track. We've got an advantage, and the Vortex love the straights, and kart worked well. My dad and Greg Adams helped a lot. Tim gave some good advice, which worked all the time, and yeah.
You don't seem too excited. You've just won a Junior Intercontinental A race. You've been trying for a while.
Yeah, this is our first year in Junior Inter, and yeah, well, we are excited, but
You reckon you'll just wait and see what happens in the final round?
yeah, I'd like to win that, see what we come in the points. Be happy to see if we're like 3rd, 4th. Be good if we won all the heats in the final.